My name is Alice Blackwood, and I'm 32 years grown. What unfolded at my sister Sarah's wedding, well, that story still ripples through our business circles like a stone in a still pond. Close your eyes and see it, 200 faces gathered in a grand ballroom, all eyes on the joy. Then, my mother Carol's hand, swift and hard, meeting my face. My diamond earring, a tiny star, went flying across the polished marble floor, landing somewhere far from the light. The reason? I would not surrender the keys to my $2 million home. Not then, not there, in front of all those watching eyes, amidst the wedding speeches. But the spirit of that day held a surprise no one had foreseen. An hour later, when the head man, the CEO of one of the city's biggest investment firms, stepped through those grand ballroom doors, my mother's shriek echoed so loud it reached 3 floors above. This man was no ordinary leader. He held power, controlling 40% of my father Richard's own company. And he arrived with words meant for that moment, words about what he had just seen unfold on a live stream, watched by countless others. If you listen to stories of holding your ground, truly holding it, then listen closely now. Let your mind travel back with me to that morning. I believed I was simply there to witness my younger sister Sarah's perfect wedding day. I arrived at the Grandview Hotel at the 8th hour, 3 before the sacred vows were to begin. The ballroom shimmered, a sight to behold, white roses and touches of gold everywhere. It was everything Sarah had envisioned, even from our childhood days. $50,000 I had given, a quiet gift to weave perfection into her day, though no one would ever speak of it. Alice, finally, my mother Carol said, her gaze sweeping over me, head to toe. That dress. Could you not have picked something softer, more womanly? You look ready for a meeting of the elders, not your sister's wedding. I smoothed the navy silk of my dress. It was elegant, fitting, and yes, truly something I'd wear to my work. And a good morning to you too, Mother, I replied. Sarah shines like the morning sun in her gown, she continued, her words brushing past my greeting as if it were wind. A true bride. You should see her radiance. This comparison was an old song, one I knew well. For 32 years, I had been the daughter too driven, too free, too much like a man in my decisions. Sarah, she was the favored one, the princess. Sweet, traditional, everything our parents had hoped for in a daughter. Alice, could you look over the seating chart? My father Richard called, but added quickly, just don't rearrange it all, like you always do. I held my words behind my teeth. The seating chart was indeed a mess, a tangle of divorced hearts at one table, business enemies at another. Yet, to point out these flaws would only paint me as the troublesome one once more. What they had no inkling of, what I had always kept hidden, was that I was not merely a manager in some common company. I stood as Vice President of Development at Hayes Capital, guiding our vast Asia-Pacific expansion, yet, within this family circle, even such a grand achievement would twist into another flaw. Too immersed in work, too much a free spirit, too much the son they yearned for but never had. Of course, Father, I responded, my voice holding steady. I will ensure everything is flawless for Sarah. Family walks before all else, Alice, my father Richard said, appearing at my side as I straightened a leaning centerpiece. You'll come to know this truth when you build your own family, that is, if you ever find a resting place for your heart. The sting in his words was quiet, but unmistakable. At 32 winters, my untouched status, it seemed, weighed heavier than any mountain of professional triumphs. Richard, let her be, Aunt Sue interjected, though her voice carried a hint of just more than true defense. Not every spirit is as blessed as Sarah, finding true love so early in her journey. I fixed my gaze on the centerpiece, letting their words drift past me like smoke. All around, the whispers of relatives spun their own judgments. Still no band of promise on Alice's hand. All those years in the city, you'd think she'd have crossed paths with a suitable one. Poor Carol. At least she has Sarah, soon to bring forth grandchildren. My cousin Mark grinned from across the gathering. Hey, Alice, perhaps if you journeyed less through the high halls of power and more through common doorways, you might not stand alone today. The laughter spread like wildfire among our kin. I yearned to speak of the 3 men I had shared time with this year, men who could not stand beside a woman who shone brighter than they. I longed to tell them that walking alone was a path chosen, not a fall from grace. But what purpose would it serve? She is simply very set in her ways, Mother Carol explained to any ear that would listen. Always too choosy for her own good. I made straight another centerpiece, my hands calm, even as the familiar ache of their dismissal touched me. They held no knowledge of who I truly was, and perhaps, that was the better path. So, Alice, Aunt Jane chirped, as we mingled before the vows. How is that small dwelling of yours in the city? Must be a cozy nest. It is a penthouse, actually, I corrected softly. The circle of people around us burst into a storm of laughter. Aunt Jane wiped tears from her eyes. A penthouse? Oh, Alice, you and your grand visions of the city. She loves to spin a tale, Sarah chimed in, drifting near in her wedding gown. Last year, she claimed she was buying a Tesla. Can you even picture it? I had, in fact, bought a Tesla. It rested outside, waiting. But I only offered a small smile. Alice has always chased the heights, Mother Carol said, her voice making ambition sound like a shadow on the spirit. Too driven, truly. There is no wrong in a humble home, Uncle Frank added, his words dripping with condescension. Not every person can reach for grand comfort. No shame in that, young one. My phone hummed then, a message from my buildings. Guardian about a delivery tomorrow to my 4,500 square foot penthouse, perched on the 45th floor. The one with windows reaching from earth to sky, gazing out over the whole city. The one I had bought with cold coin after closing the Singapore agreement. I could have shown them the pictures, called forth the moving tour saved on my device. I could have spoken of the story woven about it in Architectural Digest just last moon. But what truth would that reveal? Only that I hungered for their approval. You are right, Uncle Frank, I said instead. There is no shame in living within the limits of one's own harvest. Sarah laughed, that delicate sound she had mastered. See, Alice is learning to walk closer to the earth. At last. The twist of it all was a song in itself. Standing by the window, solitary, I watched the city's peaks, where my penthouse stood taller than all else. 10 cycles of seasons. That was the span it took to forge my path, from a young analyst to a vice president. 10 years of working beyond the light, of flights taken through the darkest hours, of agreements that sang their names in the Financial Times. That penthouse was more than walls and rooms. It was a testament. A testament that the girl they had cast aside had found her own way. A testament that I did not need their nod, nor their coin, nor their hand extended, every measure of that space, bought with my own hard-won victories. If I were to give it to Sarah, simply hand over the keys as if it were a trinket, what would that make me? The endless second choice, the family's endless giver, existing only to fill the cup of their favored child's joy. My mind drifted to the nights I had found sleep slumped at my desk, shaping proposals that would bring forth millions for the company. The steps up I had earned, while they spun dreams for Sarah's engagement gatherings, the respect I commanded in meeting rooms across 3 vast lands. None of that held meaning in this place. To them, I was only Alice. Too strong, too bound to my work, too hard to bend. And if I were to yield now, to give up the one thing that stood as a pillar of my own path, I would be affirming every belief they held about my rightful place in this family. My phone's face glowed with a picture from my helper. The sight from my penthouse that very morning. The sun climbing over the city, golden light pouring through those immense windows. A message lay beneath: your sanctuary awaits your return, leader. Sanctuary. That was its true name. The one place where I was not another's failing daughter, nor a sister fading in a shadow. Where I was simply Alice Blackwood, the woman who had brought forth something remarkable, entirely by her own spirit. I could not let that go. Not even for the quiet ease of family. Our Sarah, I heard Mother Carol tell a circle of guests, her voice floating across the grand hall. She is all a mother could ever wish for. So light in spirit, so full of warmth. Did you know she gives her time at the Children's Healing House? And soon, she will be such a good wife. The guests murmured sounds of agreement. Mother stood, shining with pride, speaking of Sarah's victories, her parchment and teaching, her flawless bond, her deeds of kindness. Not once did my name pass her lips. $50,000 I had moved to their keeping 3 moons past, when Father Richard spoke of the wedding's rising cost. I had woven my network to have Sarah's wedding grace the pages of the city's most respected bridal journal. I had even arranged for their journey of love's dwelling to be grander, using my own earned points. Invisible. That was my truth. The family's silent spirit, appearing only when a need arose. Such a blessed family, someone remarked. You must hold such pride for your daughter. Oh, we do, Father Richard replied, his arm around Mother Carol. Sarah has filled our hearts with such joy. Daughter. Singular. As if I did not exist. I turned my face away, but then I caught the sound. Father's voice, hushed, but not enough. After the blessings, he murmured to Mother, we will speak of the penthouse. Are you certain Alice will give her word? Mother whispered in return. She will have no other path. Not before all these eyes. Her pride is too great to cause a commotion at her sister's wedding. A coldness spread through my veins, they had laid this trap. It was no sudden gift of a giving heart. It was an attack, crafted to corner me with the weight of public gaze and the chains of family duty. Besides, Mother Carol added, what does she need such a grand home for? It's not as if she has a family to bring life to its rooms. The careless cruelty of her words stole the air from my chest, but also forged a clear resolve within me. I would not walk their path. If you have ever felt like a phantom in your own family, as if your victories hold no value unless they fit another's story, then you know this feeling. I see you. And the path you've carved holds meaning, even if their eyes refuse to see it. What is coming next is the moment when all shifted, when the hidden ways of family burst forth into open shame. Remember to mark this story, if tales of drawing lines and choosing honor over family's praise speak to your spirit, there is a strength in knowing others who understand that sometimes the fiercest struggles are faced with those who should be our greatest allies. The celebration was in full bloom when Father Richard rose, tapping a glass of sparkling wine with a spoon. The music ceased. 200 eyes turned to him. Before we continue our joyous feast, he began, his voice echoing from the microphone, Carol and I wish to offer Sarah and Ben a special gift. My spirit sank within me. They were truly doing this deed. As you all know, the circle of family means all to us, Father Richard went on, his smile embracing the gathering. And there is no mountain we would not climb for the joy of our children. Children, he said, speaking of more than one. But his gaze held fast on Sarah. That is why we are filled with gladness to say that Alice has kindly agreed to bestow upon Sarah her city penthouse as a wedding present. The hall erupted in a wave of hand-clapping. Sarah pressed her hands to her heart. A practiced show of wonder, though the quiet smile on her lips whispered that she had known all this time. Ben wrapped his arm around her, a wide grin on his face. Oh, my spirit, Alice, Sarah gushed into her own microphone. Are you truly serious? The penthouse? Every gaze in the room swung to me. I stood unmoving, the glass of sparkling wine clutched in my hand, my thoughts flying like startled birds. They had woven this perfectly, the spoken words, Sarah's reply, the open stage that made a refusal seem like a monstrous act. Alice, come forward, Father Richard called, beckoning me near. Let our whole family stand as one for this cherished time. The hand-clapping continued. Faces held smiles, heads nodded, some even dabbed at tears for this beautiful act. I saw the wife of my own leader at the 12th table, 3 powerful clients at the 8th. My entire web of professional connections, spread across the hall, all watching me, all waiting for me to smile and play the role of the giving sister. This was more than a sudden attack. It was a cold, calculated strike against my very being, my right to choose. I placed my glass down and rose with purpose. The room fell silent, waiting, listening. I am sorry, what was that? My voice carried clear, without need of the microphone. Father Richard's smile wavered, a brief flicker. Your grand home, sweet spirit. For Sarah and Ben. This matter was not spoken of with me, I stated, my voice holding firm and proper. A wave of murmurs stirred the gathering. Father Richard's face began to redden. Do not hold only to yourself on your sister's day, he said, still gripping the microphone, making sure all ears heard his command. Father, this is not the place for such talk. We can speak of this in private. There is nothing to discuss, Mother Carol declared, seizing the microphone from Father Richard. It is a wedding gift from the whole family. It is my dwelling, I stated plainly. And I have not given my word to anything. The murmurs swelled into louder sounds. I caught fragments. How could she? On her sister's day? So full of self-love. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, perfect in their timing. Alice. I thought you would wish for my joy. Your happiness does not depend on my home, Sarah. It is merely a place, Father Richard boomed. You can acquire another. Then you acquire one for her, I countered. Gasps echoed through the grand hall. Someone at the 3rd table truly clutched their treasured beads. The wedding's artist of light kept working, his camera clicking like a rapid heartbeat. Alice, please, Ben interjected, seeking to calm the storm. We would guard it so well. I am sure you would, I replied, but the penthouse is not for the taking. Mother Carol's face had taken on a hue of deep purple. Father Richard looked as if he might be struck down. And Sarah? Sarah's gentle facade was splintering, showing a truth far less pleasing beneath. Come now, Alice, Aunt Jane called out. It is for family. You have no family to make it whole, Uncle Frank added. Sarah's need is greater. She is binding her life, beginning a new path, another voice echoed. What purpose do you have for so much open air? The weight pressed from every side each word, another stone laid in the wall they raised around me. Be sensible, my cousin Mark cried out. Cease being so troublesome. It's not as if you cannot gain another dwelling, Aunt Sue added, the bitter edge of her words unmistakable. With your grand and weighty work. They still held no belief in my triumphs. Even now, they thought the penthouse a twist of fate or a grand tale. That is a generous thought for you to hold, I said. My voice unwavering despite the storm raging within. But my path with wealth is not for open discussion. Everything is always of money with you, Mother Carol spat into the microphone. Your sister's joy should outweigh any dwelling. If Sarah's joy is tethered to taking what is mine, perhaps we should look closely at that truth. More gasps. A voice from the back actually booed. The artist of light kept capturing, his flash painting the scene with pulsing light. Through it all, my hands rested still at my sides. No tremor, no dampness in my eyes. I had sat across from leaders who devoured young executives whole. I had held my footing in grand rooms where millions hung in the balance. I would not fall now, not before those who had lessened me my whole life. The penthouse is not for the taking, I repeated, each word a clear, final stone. My phone buzzed fiercely in my hand. I drew it forth, needing a moment's escape from the cold stares. 3 missed calls from Michael Chen, and a message that quickened the beat of my heart, saw the live stream on standby. Live streamed out. I swept my gaze around and saw Ben's younger brother's device. Set upon table 6, sending the whole gathering out to Facebook Live. The red light, marking it live, winked like a knowing eye. How many were witnessing this unraveling in the moment? Another message from Michael Chen, your decision. Speak the word. Michael Chen. My guide, my leader, and by a twist of fate, the very man who held 40% of my father's enterprise, though Father Richard held no knowing that his silent partner and his daughter's highest leader were one and the same. We had kept that truth guarded, for just such a time as this. Alice, put away that device, Mother Carol snapped. This is a time for family. It seems it is also a show for all to see, I said, my head tilting toward the streaming device. Your son-in-law's kin are sending this out to the great web. Ben's brother quickly snatched his device. But the mark had already been made. Who could count the eyes that had already seen my parents try to force my hand, in front of the world, to give up my home? Wait for my sign, I wrote back to Michael, then tucked my device away. So much drama, Sarah sighed into the microphone, acting the part of the wounded soul without a flaw. All this uproar for a mere dwelling. I thought my sister's love for me was deep enough to help set my new path right. The crowd believed her words. Poor Sarah, cast aside by her cold, self-centered sister. But then, I saw something. Father Richard, too, kept casting glances at his device, his face losing its color with each look. The live stream held consequences he had not foreseen. Your wedding is echoing far and wide, I told Sarah softly. My felicitations. Standing there, encircled by their harsh assessments, a memory rose from 6 moons ago. Michael Chen had insisted on adding a peculiar line to the agreement for my penthouse. Trust my word, he had said, looking over the documents. You will wish for shielding against outsiders meddling, especially pressure from kin. I had laughed it away then. My family was hard, yes, but not a threat. Yet Michael, who had carved a great house from thin air, knew deeper truths. If any soul tries to compel you to sign over ownership under dwelling words, he had made clear, this clause comes to life. The company holds the right to claim it first and can step in to guard the dwelling and you. The penthouse had first been a company holding, given to me as part of my earned rewards. The path of paper was clean, the owning righteous, but that specific line, clause 15.3, I recalled, gave Hayes Capital the power to step in if anyone tried to make me surrender it. It was more than the law of land. It was about protecting leaders from this very kind of cunning hand. Michael had seen too many women of great achievement pressured into handing over their hard-won treasures to family who felt they deserved a share of their glory. Alice has always walked with a strong will. Father Richard was saying to the gathering, trying to mend the unraveling thread. But family holds the first place. She knows this. Family does not set traps for one another, I said softly, but my voice found its way to every ear. The room fell into stillness once more. Even though serving had ceased their movements, trays balanced, watching this broken path unfold. My mind went to the papers resting in Michael's guarded chest. The ones that spoke not only of the penthouse, but of the very bones of Hayes Capital's wealth, the very papers that would hold deep interest for my father. If he ever knew his daughter stood as the strong right arm of his own partner. Blessings for that clause Michael had insisted upon. Mother Carol descended from the main table like a spirit of vengeance, her gown, adorned with beads, catching the light as she moved fiercely across the dance space. She still gripped the microphone, her knuckles pale. Alice Blackwood. Her voice thundered through the sound speakers. You will not shatter this day. You will not bring shame upon this family. I am not the one weaving this spectacle, Mother. We raised you to know better than this. She stood but 3 feet from me now, close enough for me to see the pulse beat in her temple. We gave you all. You gave Sarah all, I corrected. What I possess, I earned myself. You thankless. She halted, catching herself, remembering the many eyes watching. Then, with a false sweetness that fooled no one. Sweet spirit, simply hand over the keys to your sister. It is such a small deed. No. The word hung between us, a challenge in the air. To Mother Carol's face cycled through many feelings, disbelief, fury, shame. The entire grand hall held its breath. You will do this? She hissed, lowering the microphone for a moment. Or may the spirits help me. Or what? I asked, truly curious what threat she believed would bend my will. She lifted the microphone again. Listen, all. My daughter seems to have forgotten the meaning of family. Perhaps you can help refresh her memory. The gathering stirred, uneasy, some voices cried out for Sarah, but others had fallen silent, sensing a boundary had been crossed. Give your sister the keys. Mother Carol's voice had dropped to a perilous whisper, still caught by the microphone. Now. No, you self-centered, thankless girl. The words burst from her like a storm. After all we have done, all we have given up, you cannot do this one small thing? You are a shadow of shame on this family. She stood close enough now that I could catch the scent of her perfume, the same heavy, sweet flower scent of my early years. Close enough to see the fires of old resentments burning in her gaze. The strike came without a whisper of warning. Mother Carol's hand met my cheek with such force that my head jerked sideways. The sharp sound echoed through the hall's perfect air, made louder by the microphone she still held. My diamond earring, a treasure I had given myself after closing the Singapore agreement, flew from my ear, tracing an arc through the air as if time itself had slowed, before it struck the marble floor with a soft, clear chime. 200 gathered souls gasped as one. Then, stillness. A complete and utter quiet. The kind that makes the world hum in your ears. The kind that makes each beat of your own heart sound like a drum of thunder. I stood perfectly still, my cheek aflame, feeling the warmth bloom across my face. The light catcher's device had ceased its rhythmic song. Those serving stood frozen. Even the youngest ones at the 15th table had hushed. Mother Carol's hand remained lifted, as if she could not truly grasp the deed she had wrought. The microphone in her other hand caught the ragged breaths escaping her. I could see all reflected in the shining walls, my reddened cheek, Mother's stunned face, Father Richard half risen from his seat. Sarah, her hands pressed to her mouth, perhaps in true surprise. Ben's brother held his device aloft once more, seizing every moment. The earring rested on the white marble, its tiny lights catching the glow of the grand lamp, perhaps 10 feet distant. Such a small thing, yet somehow it felt like the most weighty object in that vast room. I did not stir, did not speak, did not even lift my hand to my stinging cheek. I simply stood, letting the quiet speak all that needed to be heard. Slowly, with purpose, I walked to where my earring lay upon the marble ground. My heels tapped in the stillness, each step a clear echo through the hall. I bent low, gathered the earring, and with care, placed it back on my ear. This simple act took perhaps 30 heartbeats. It felt like 30 cycles of seasons. I straightened myself, smoothed my dress, and fixed my gaze directly on my mother. Her hand had fallen, but still held the microphone, her face a mix of stubbornness and dawning dread. "Excuse me," I said, my voice perfectly firm. Then I turned to the table of honor. "Congratulations, Sarah. I hope your union brings you happiness." I took my small bag from my table and walked towards the leaving place, not hurrying, not fleeing, but walking with the same measured steps I used when departing from high meetings. "Alice," Father Richard called out. "Alice, halt." I did not pause, did not turn my head. Behind me, the grand hall burst into a whirlwind of confusion. Voices rising, chairs dragging, a cry escaping someone, but I walked on. The moment I passed through the ballroom doors, I drew my device and struck Michael's number. He answered with the first sound. "Michael, the path is clear," I stated simply. "Understood. How much time do I have?" "Give me 45 breaths to reach my home." "Are you well?" I touched my cheek, still burning. "Begin the counterplan." "Michael already calls his team of law." "Alice, yes. Now I ask, are you wounded?" "Nothing that time will not mend," I said, stepping into the rising room. "But Michael, ensure you bring the shareholder pact, the one Father Richard never truly read." "With gladness," he replied. I ended the call as the doors closed, leaving the family storm far behind. That moment, the sound of the strike carried to 200 souls. Did it stir a fire in your spirit? I know the sting of being shamed by those who should be your shield. But sometimes, the strongest answer is not rage, but a carefully chosen action. What follows will reveal why you should never look down upon a spirit you have pushed beyond its limit. If you stand for your own truth, let it be known. If you have ever had to draw a hard line with your kin, then you understand. The next part is where all changed, where the daughter unseen became the one holding all the power. 45 breaths later, I was in my penthouse, a cold press against my cheek, when my device hummed with a message from Michael. "Entering the building now." I slipped into everyday clothes, a soft garment. No need for battle coverings now. The fight had already found its victor. They simply had not yet learned this truth. My phone shone with new tidings. Ben's brother's live stream had traveled over 500 times. The moment of the strike was already a moving image. But I held no care for the whispers of the internet. My mind rested on what was unfolding in that grand hall at that very breath. Michael messaged again, walking in. "Richard just saw me." I could see it clearly in my mind's eye. Michael Chen, in his $10,000 suit, stepping into that ballroom with his known quiet strength. Two guardians of law walking beside him, briefcases in hand. The same Michael Chen whose name was known in the pages of Forbes, the very man my father Richard had sought fiercely to meet with for 6 long moons. Another message, his face just drained of color. Now your mother cries out. I walked to my windows, reaching from earth to sky, gazing at the city's myriad lights. Somewhere far below, in that grand hall, my family was coming to understand the weight of their own actions. My phone sang out. An unknown voice. Hello, Alice. It was Ben's brother, his words a hurried whisper. You must see this. Your father looks as if his spirit might leave him. This man in a fine suit, he just spoke your name, and something of partnership packs. Your mother truly cried out when she saw him. Who is this man? Someone who believes in guarding what he has sown, I replied. Your father keeps speaking Mr. Chen again and again. Is this the Chen? The one who holds? I must leave, I said, ending the talk. The city gleamed below, quiet and unknowing, but in that grand hall, a great house was shifting its very foundation. My phone called out again. This time, it was Michael. You are on open ear, he said. I stand here with your parents and their guests. I could hear the deep, stunned quiet of the ballroom in the distance. Richard, Michael's voice carried that firm power that made even the strongest tremble. I must make something clear for all gathered here. Alice Blackwood is not merely a worker in my company. She is our Vice President of Development, guiding our entire expansion across Asia and the Pacific. I heard a collective sharp intake of breath through the phone. That cannot be, my father Richard's voice, thin and lost. The Singapore agreement that brought us 40 millions. Alice guided that. The Tokyo office, now our most flourishing branch. Alice forged that from the very earth. The alliance with Samsung, which your company hungered for a share of. Alice shaped every part of that. You speak false words, Mother Carol's voice, sharp and frantic. Mrs. Blackwood, your daughter stands as one of the most prized leaders in this city. The penthouse you sought to seize, it was part of her earned rewards as a leader. A set of rewards that, I should add, carries certain shields. What shields? Father Richard asked. The ones that awaken when someone tries to force her hand to give up company holdings, which, by the account of the live stream, now seen by 20,000 eyes, is precisely what took place here tonight. 20,000, in less than one turn of the clock. Furthermore, Michael continued, as one who holds 40% of your company, Richard, I am deeply troubled by the judgment you have shown this night. Openly seeking to take from your own daughter, letting your wife strike her. This brings forth grave questions about your ability to lead. You cannot? This is a matter for family alone, Father Richard stammered. The moment you brought it into the open, you made it my concern. Alice, are you still listening? I am here, I said clearly. Would you wish to seek justice for the blow? The grand hall held its breath. Let me make something clear, Michael's voice continued through the sound. That live stream shows a clear strike in an attempt to force. This awakens clause 15.3 of our shareholder pact, Richard. The one speaking of moral decay and behavior unfit for a leader. What words do you speak? Father Richard's voice broke. Page 47 of the agreement you put your mark on 5 seasons past. I can call a swift gathering of the council within one full day. Knowing that I command 40%, and the Jensen Trust holds another 15, they follow this story with keen interest. By the way, you can do the counting. I could hear papers shifting. Michael was spreading documents on the table of honor. This is a wrongful demand, Mother Carol shrieked. No, Mrs. Blackwood. Wrongful demand was asking for your daughter's dwelling before 200 witnesses. This is the handling of what has followed. Alice, Father Richard's voice came through, a plea now. Tell him to cease. This travels too far. Too far? I finally spoke. Like striking your daughter at a wedding was not too far? You cannot bring ruin to our family's trade over this. I am destroying nothing, I said calmly. I am shielding my own wealth and my honor. Michael is guarding his own stake. If your actions threaten that stake, then the weight rests upon you. The moving picture is everywhere, someone whispered in the background. It is on all the talking places, the local news has caught it. Here is what will unfold, Michael announced. Richard, you have 2 full days to offer an open apology to Alice. A true one, not words painted by others. You will recognize her triumphs in work and her right to her own dwelling. Carol, you will do likewise, and you will keep your distance from Alice forever. Or what? Mother Carol demanded. Or I wield my power as a main holder of shares. Your company needs my abundance for its growth. Without it, you face the barren path of ruin within 6 moons. This is my daughter's wedding. Mother Carol's voice had reached a shriek of wild despair. You cannot do this in this place. You speak truly, Michael said, his voice smooth as water. This is not the time nor the place, which is why I offer you 2 days to make things straight. Alice's penthouse remains hers, untouched, undisputed. Any act to twist her will, burden her heart, or force her hand will bring swift action of law. She is our daughter. Father Richard cried out. Then treat her as such. Michael shot back. Not like a source of coin or a tool to be called upon for your favored child. I heard Sarah sob with a great flourish. This is meant to be my sacred day. It still is, Michael replied. I depart now. But these papers remain with you, Richard. Read them, grasp their meaning, and remember that Alice does not stand alone. She carries the full might of Hayes Capital behind her. Alice. Sarah's voice came through, shaking with sorrow. How could you do this to me? I did nothing to you, Sarah. I simply refused to give you my home. All else, the public declaration, the heavy hand, the strike, that was Mother Carol and Father Richard's choosing. But the penthouse is mine. Bought with my own coin, earned through my own toil. If you desire a grand home, I suggest you earn it. You are so harsh. No, I am simply finished being the offering for your family. I heard stirrings, chairs dragging, murmurs among the people, then Michael's voice. Closer to the device now. Alice, the papers have been given. Your parents know their paths. The choice rests with them. Thank you, Michael. I am sorry it came to this pass. As am I. The wedding's artist of light captured all. By the way, he has already sent us the clear images. Should we need them for the path of law? Father Richard's low sound of distress was heard through the phone. 2 days, Richard, Michael said one last time. An open apology, or I summon the council. Alice, I will see you on the first day of the new week. The line went silent. I stood in my penthouse, gazing out at the city, at last able to draw a full breath. My cheeks still burned, but something else had been lifted. 32 years of a burden I had not known I carried. Within 2 turns of the clock, my phone burst with messages. The moving picture had traveled beyond measure. It was everywhere. Parents who feel entitled demand daughter's $1 million home at wedding was echoing across 3 realms. Sarah called 15 times. I did not respond. Mother Carol sent words, you have shattered everything. Your sister's sacred day is ruined. Guests are leaving. Do you find joy in this now? Father Richard's message was of a different heart, we must speak, please. But the messages that truly caught my eye came from places unforeseen. 3 of Father Richard's most important patrons had witnessed the moving picture. Richard, my spirit is troubled by what I just saw. We must speak of our agreement. Jim Patterson, Patterson Industries. This behavior runs deep with worry. My wife urges us to rethink our alliance. David Kim, Kim Electronics. I do not share my trade with those who strike their young. Our pact is ended. Sarah Williams, Williams Logistics. That last one, a $3 million agreement each year. Gone. Ben's family's shared space, where I had been placed moons ago, was in uproar. His mother. We are departing. This is a source of great shame. His father, the wedding is halted until we truly know what manner of family we are joining. The wedding day was breaking apart, and I was not even present. Michael sent a private message, your father just called. He is seized with fear for his patrons. 3 more have voiced their worries. Then came the message that brought the deepest satisfaction. From one who had captured all. Your mother lost her senses when she understood the head man of Hayes Capital was your leader. Truly lost her senses. They had to call the healers. I poured a glass of wine from a bottle I had kept for a time of special meaning. If rising for myself was not special, then what was? My helper sent words, leader, your story travels far. Also, 5 seekers of talent have already called, asking if you seek new paths. It seems standing against a poisoned family is a powerful thing now. I laughed, a real, full laugh, for the first time in many days. By the dawn of the new week, the world of trade had chosen its sides, and there was no true contest. The moving picture had been shared in every great network of commerce in the city. The story was plain, a daughter who had triumphed refuses to be bent by parents who felt entitled. A leader steps forth to shield a valuable worker from family's grasping hands. Father Richard's company lost 6 agreements in all. The great growth he had envisioned for 2 seasons was now still. Without Michael's flowing wealth, and with the patrons departing, he would have to shrink his reach. Sarah's journey of new love to Bali was unmade. Not by her, but by Ben's kin. They wished to look anew at the ways their families would intertwine before stepping forth. The gifts of the wedding were being sent back, but the most surprising ripple came from my own company. Michael called me into his private room on the afternoon of the first day. The council wishes to raise your standing, he said, without delay. Senior Vice President of Global Operations. The triumph in Asia Pacific, together with how you held yourself in that trial, it has moved them greatly. I was struck at a wedding. That stirred them? You stood firm against a great weight of public eye. You guarded the company's holdings. You held your calm under fierce strain. That is precisely the kind of leadership we seek. And the fact that I had to step in shows you know when to call upon your powers. Alice, I have seen many leaders fall under the heavy hand of family. You did not merely stand firm, you found victory. The rise in my standing came with a 40% increase in my shares, enough to gain another grand home if my heart desired. Not that I needed another. The one I possessed was whole, a symbol of all I had achieved without my family's hand or their blessing. I gave the added wealth from my rise to a haven for women, a place that helped those wounded escape poisonous bonds. It felt like the true path. Father Richard's public apology arrived precisely 47 hours after Michael's final word. It was rigid, clearly woven by legal hands, but it served its purpose. I offer my regrets to my daughter Alice for my ill-fitting actions at the recent family gathering. I recognize her triumphs in her work and her right to her own dwelling. This matter is now laid to rest. Mother Carol refused to offer words of regret. Instead, she unleashed a torrent of words across the social webs. Calling me thankless, self-centered, and tainted by the ways of the business world, her outburst was captured and shared thousands of times, often with comments such as, "Here is where the root of the trouble lies," and "A mother full of self-love," revealed. Sarah sent me words a week later, "You have shattered my life. Ben's family is forcing us to seek guidance before they will agree to the binding. They believe my family is poison." "They are not mistaken," I replied. "I hate you." "I know." The wider family divided into separate grounds. Some stood with my parents, claiming family must always be first, others reached out in quiet, sharing their own tales of being the one blamed, the endless provider, the one never seen as enough. Cousin Mark messaged, "I regret my words. I did not know they treated you this way always. Aunt Sue, your mother is my sister, but her path was wrong. I hold pride in you for standing tall." But the most unexpected message came from Ben. I had no knowledge of the Penthouse trap. I would have halted it. "Sarah needs to grow in spirit, and perhaps this is the call to awakening she truly needs. I am sorry about your mother striking you. That was a plain and simple attack. At least one in that family saw with clear eyes." I changed the guardians of my penthouse's door the next day. The building's watchmen were given a list of those forever forbidden from the dwelling. My parents' names rested at the very top. The keeper of the door, James, who had known me for 3 seasons, drew me aside. "Miss Blackwood, I witnessed the moving picture. Good for your spirit. My own daughter walked a similar path. Family is not always true family, you see." I knew. I blocked my immediate kin from all the social talking places. No grand declaration, no words of explanation, just a quiet removal of their path into my life. My work became my guiding star. The rise in my standing meant leading teams across 12 lands. I poured myself into it, building something with deep meaning, free from the burden of families wanting. Michael became more than a leader. He became the wise guide my father had never been. "You know," he said over warm drink one morning, "the truest retribution is a life well lived without their shadow." 3 moons later, a message came from a voice unknown. It was an image of Sarah's wedding offering, the one I had sent after all had settled. A parchment for 6 moons of family healing talks. "This is a great offense," the message read. "It is needed," I replied, then closed that path as well. My penthouse became what it was always destined to be, a sacred place, a haven where no one could command, belittle, or shrink my spirit. The windows, reaching from earth to sky, gazing over the city, reminded me each day that I had built something they could not seize. Not for lack of trying, though. 6 moons later, the dust had settled into a new truth. I was flourishing. The senior VP role had led to a story woven about me in Forbes' 40 Under 40. The words in the story spoke nothing of the wedding's unraveling, but focused instead on my new ways of thinking for expanding into the Asian markets. Father Richard's company had found steady ground but never regained its former high place. He had aged 10 seasons in 6 moons. Through shared connections in trade, I heard he had begun to seek guidance. Too little, too late, yet still, a step. Mother Carol tightened her hold on her tale of being wronged, speaking to any ear about her thankless daughter who chose coin over kin. Most souls had seen the moving picture, they knew the deeper truth. Sarah's binding to Ben lasted precisely 4 moons. The guidance had uncovered deeper roots of trouble, a sense of deserving without effort, an inability to bear her own burdens, an expectation for others to fill her needs. Ben's family had been right in their worries. The unbinding was quiet, but final. She sent me words once, "I hope you find joy. You got what you desired." "I got what I earned," I replied. There is a distinction. The family I discovered at Hayes Capital became my true family. We celebrated victories together, stood by each other through trying paths, and not once did anyone ask me to give up my triumphs for their ease. Michael and his wife welcomed me to their family's feasts. His daughters, both journeying through higher learning, looked to me with admiration. You are a living truth that we do not have to make ourselves smaller for any soul, the elder one spoke. That held more value than any blessing my birth family could have ever given. So, here is the wisdom I gathered from that shattered wedding. Blood alone does not weave a family. Respect, that is the thread. Success is not a debt you owe to those who never walked beside you on your path. And sometimes, the most potent words you can offer to a poisoned family are no words at all. My penthouse remains mine. Each morning, I watch the sun awaken through those windows reaching from earth to sky, a warm drink in my hand, my heart thankful for the quiet I fought to keep. It is more than a dwelling. It is a testament that I chose my own spirit when all others demanded I choose them. If you walk a hard road with kin who demand more than they offer, who claim the harvest of triumphs they did not sow, who expect you to burn your own spirit to warm their hands, know this truth. Your lines of separation hold weight. Your victory belongs to you. Your quiet heart is worth more than their blessing. You owe no one your hard-won achievements simply because of shared blood. You do not have to swallow disrespect in the name of family's ease, and you certainly do not have to endure harm, whether it is a physical blow like that strike, or the invisible wound of years being seen as less. The cost of my freedom was great. I lost my family of blood, but what I found was beyond measure. Self-honor, true bonds, and a life forged by my own hand. Your journey may be different, but the core truth remains. You deserve to be lifted up, not merely suffered. Choose those who choose you. Not just when their cup is empty, but always. What sacred lines do you need to draw today? Thank you for walking this path with my story. If you have ever had to choose between the family's nod and your own self-respect, you do not stand alone. Speak, boundaries matter, if you believe in guarding your spirit from the poisonous ways of family. Share this story with a soul who needs to hear that it is right to choose oneself. Mark this story and listen for the calls of other tales. Of drawing true lines and building families of spirit. I would be glad to know. Do you walk with Alice for holding her ground? Or do you believe family must always hold the first place? Let your thoughts be known. Remember, your quiet heart is a truth that cannot be surrendered.